guys, I'm Desikan and today's video is going to be on high-end versus affordable products. So I'm going to be trying to find a good match in the affordable range to the high-end products. So I have some really good products, like some really popular products from Huda Beauty and Tarte and stuff like that. So I've tried my best to match it to the closest products, and the affordable products have a comparatively lesser price range compared to the high-end products, and you can save a lot of money. And sometimes the affordable products tend to perform way better than the high-end products, and sometimes the high-end products are way better than the affordable products. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how it compares to each other, and towards the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you my final take on the products and which product fared well, which one is sort of better than the other, and which one you can kind of lean towards. And also in this video, I've not included any brow products, eyeliner, eyelashes and bronzer. Other than that, I think I have one in each category. So let's get to the video. Firstly, I will be starting off with the high-end side, and for the eyeshadow, for the high-end side, I'll be using the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions eyeshadow palette. I got this from cosmic.com for 2,300 rupees because on Nykaa I found it to be 200 rupees more expensive, and every penny you spend on makeup matters. So this comes with a mirror, and this is what the eyeshadow palette looks like. So before we start off with the eyeshadow application, of course, you've got to prime your eyelids. Just blending it out. Now to set the eyelids on the high-end side, I'm going to be taking this shade from the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions palette. So now for my transition shade, I'm going to be taking this kind of like a pinky mauve shade as my transition. I'm going to be taking this Wet n Wild brush and applying this shade. I really envy people with like a lot of lid space because I have very little lid space. Okay, so now that I'm done, let's move on to the drugstore side. I have to do it side by side so that you guys can see how it's faring. For the other side of my face, I'm going to be using this Pack Ultimate Shadow Box Luxe Collection in the shade Mauve. Only thing is, some of the shades look a lot more pigmented in this than it is in this, but we shall see how it fares on the eye, you know. So firstly, I will be setting this eyelid with this shade from this palette, and now I'm going to be taking this shade and applying it as my transition shade, just like I did on this side. Okay, it looked a lot different in the pan, but when you apply it on the eyelid, it looks exactly the same. I feel like this one is a lot more pinkier than this side is. This is a little bit more mauve, and I feel like this brush actually packed a punch to the transition shade as compared to this side. So I'm going to be taking a denser brush on this side as well, just so that the intensity is the same. So now for my all over lid shade, I'm going to be going with this shade followed by this one in the outer corner. I'm trying to use the corresponding shade in both of this so that the eye look would look a little bit similar. So now first I'll be taking this shade on the outer corner and building the outer corner. It's really nice. It's not something that is like super pigmented in the first go. You have to build it up a little bit, which I like to an extent, because then you don't go heavy-handed with the eyeshadows and then wonder what to do and how to blend it. Now I'm going to be taking this shade for my outer corner. Now this one is a little more deeper, like it's a more burgundy shade, whereas this is like straight up red. I'm going to be building it up on the outer corner. I feel like the pack eyeshadows are blending a little easier, like the matte eyeshadows, as compared to the Huda Beauty ones. Now for the affordable side, for the inner part of the lid where I need to apply a shimmer shade, I'm going to be using this shade all over my lid. It's just looking like a monochromatic look because everything is going and blending into each other, and the tones are very similar. Like, I like my eyeshadow to have a little bit of contrast, and the shimmer shade is like super pigmented. I didn't even have to wet my brush, and you can't layer it on too much because it's getting a little bit crumbly, and I think shimmer shades work really well with fingers more than brushes. Just to add a little bit of something, I'm going to be taking this shade and adding it to my outer corner. So on the eye side, I'm going to be going with this shade right here. Can you guys see that difference in eyeshadow? Like, it looks different in the pan, but when you apply it on the eye, just to deepen up the outer corner again, taking this shade with a pencil brush, just sort of like deepening up this part a little bit. I feel like the shimmer shade in the Huda Beauty palette is not like very pigmented or anything of that sort. So like I mentioned earlier, I don't have any eyeliner to dupe, so I'll just finish my liner and then we'll go ahead with our face makeup. And then now moving on to my face. For primer, only for this part of my face, I'm going to be using these two primers and comparing these two. This is the Benefit the Porefessional primer, and this one is the Pack Pore primer. So I just want to see if it's kind of similar. So I'm going to be taking this much of it and just applying it only on to this part of my face. It has like a very mattifying pore filling finish. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, I'll try a little bit on my forehead lines as well. Okay, that is amazing. This is an amazing pore filling primer. I don't know if you guys can see it. So on this side of my face, I'm going to be using the Pack Pore Primer. Color, this texture, this consistency is almost the same. It's almost identical. I just feel like this one is a little more luminous than this. This is almost matte, but I feel like the effect it gives is almost the same. I just feel like the Benefit one is a little bit better, but nonetheless it's nice. And for the rest of my face, I'm going to be using the Smashbox Primer Water on this side and the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Primer Water Spray on this side. So we'll start off with the Wet n Wild Primer Spray. This doesn't smell the best. It really smells like it's gone rancid. And on this side, I'm going to be using the primer water. I feel like these primer sprays, they don't look like they're doing much, but they do prolong the wear of my makeup and also do hydrate my skin to an extent. Alright, so that's done. So for foundation on this side, I'm going to be using the Huda Beauty foundation in the shade 340 G Baklava. Now this is a very full coverage foundation. When I use this, I don't even actually need a concealer. Since I'm doing only half my face, I'm going to try to take only very little of this. So to blend it on this side of my face, I'm going to be taking the Original Beauty blender. Can you guys see? This little bit, it spreads so much. The Original Beauty blender usually absorbs way too much product as compared to any other sponge, and I feel like the primer kind of helps in this part because this foundation does tend to emphasize the texture on my skin a little too much, and so that pore filling primer does come in handy. For this side of my face, I'm going to be testing out how good this foundation is in compared to the Huda Beauty foundation, because worldwide it's raved about to be very similar to this, and even this is supposed to be like a full coverage foundation. For me, this is sort of medium coverage, and the shade is a little bit off. Like the Huda Beauty shade is almost like my skin tone and it matches me pretty well, but this one is sort of light for me, but it does oxidize eventually. So on this side of my face, I'm going to be testing out if the Maybelline Superstay foundation is anywhere close to the Huda Beauty foundation. So in the Maybelline foundation, I have the shade 220 Natural Beige. To blend it on this side of my face, I'm going to be using the LA Girl sponge. The finish you get on both of this is exactly the same. I just feel like the coverage on the Huda Beauty is something that, you know, no foundation can beat. I don't have any foundation that matches up to that in terms of coverage, but I feel like the finish is very similar. Even this is pretty matte on my skin, like how the Huda Beauty foundation is. So I'm not going to be working much on this side because first of all, the shade doesn't match my skin perfectly, and of course there is an obvious shade difference, but this will oxidize eventually. So let's move on to concealer. So for the high-end side, I'm going to be using the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the shade Medium. Now this is my favorite concealer actually, and it's like full coverage. As you guys can see that I just used very little amount of it, and it masked up the pigmentation under my eyes perfectly, and also the pigment of the color corrector, but I'm just going to be using a little more of it just on the inner part. Now the concealer I'm going to be using on the affordable side is the Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer. I got this in the shade C10. Now this is very comparable to the Tarte Shape Tape, but I feel like the Tarte Shape Tape is way long lasting and gives slightly better coverage than this one. So I have to go about like twice to get that same coverage that I get with it, but I don't find this to be long lasting at all on my skin. That's just like one swipe of this concealer, and it's pretty comparable. I mean, you can't say that it's bad. I'm just going to go over it again a little bit more. And the shade on this is completely different. The Tarte Shape Tape, the medium shade, is a little bit like white based, whereas this one has a little bit of yellow tones to it. I will also be concealing around this part. So on this side again, I'm going to be using my Tarte Shape Tape concealer, just a little bit. And on this side, I'm going to be using the Makeup Revolution concealer. Now firstly I will be setting underneath my eyes. I'm going to be using Charlotte Tilbury Skin Perfecting Micro Powder underneath my eyes on this side. This is in the shade medium. It's supposed to be like super fine, perfect for people with dry skin. This is what it looks like. Look at the packaging, you guys. So luxe and amazing. So I'm going to be taking this powder. Take off the excess. Wow. That instantly like smoothened underneath my eyes and it looks very nice. And I'll probably set this side of my face with this as well. And on my forehead lines. For this side of my face, I'm going to be using the Lakme 9 to 5 Primer Plus Matte Powder Foundation. Now this is very comparable to the Charlotte Tilbury one. Only that you can go a little overboard and it won't look too cakey. But this one you have to be a little bit careful. Again, as you guys can see, like it's smoothing this part very well. I'm also going to be setting the lines on my forehead. Now for blush on this side, I'm going to be taking the MAC blush in the shade Desert Rose. This is a very unique shade and it was so difficult to find a close dupe to this, like even to find a shade that was really similar to this, because this is very different. There's a lot of pink to it. It has a little bit of warmth to it and a lot of mauve undertones to it as well. And this is like one of my favorite blush shades actually, and it looks very nice. It is pretty matte, so because the foundation is also matte, it kind of like doesn't go well with the matte finish, and that's the reason I actually like to go with cream blushes. I know this is a little too much. I will tone it down. Don't worry about that. So on this side of my face, because I wanted a shade that is kind of similar to this, I'm going to be using two lipsticks on this side. This is the Maybelline Touch of Spice lipstick, which is a very perfect, beautiful mauve shade. And I will be mixing it in with this Sugar Better Call Salmon It's About Time Vivid lipstick, because only if I mix these two I'm able to get that remotely even close shade dupe for this. Can you guys see, like this almost blended beautifully into my skin, and so when I feel like it's a little too less, I go over it a little more. I always use my lipsticks as blushes, and that's the reason I actually don't invest in blushes at all, because if it's something you guys like, you can definitely go ahead and invest in it. And now I'm going to be finishing up the lower lash line, because it's time that I do that. So on my lower lash line on the eye inside, I'm going to be taking this shade, followed by, I want to make it a little bit dark. We're probably taking this shade and applying it just on the outer part. And for the affordable side, again, be taking this pack eyeshadow, taking this shade, running it on my lower lash line, and then taking this red shade and deepening up the outer corner. So for now, I'm just going to be leaving it with this, because I'm going to be setting my face, and then I would do the mascara and the lower lash line, like completing it and stuff like that, because I don't want to have a mascara rundown. So I'll just quickly set my face with any spray. I don't have like a dupe for that. And for mascara, on the high end side, I have this Benefit Roller Lash Mascara, which I got quite some time back, but I've never used it at all. I got it in this smaller size, because I usually never go through mascaras that quickly. That gives beautiful length. I don't know if you guys can see it, but wow. And a dupe for this, which a lot of people actually claim it to be a dupe, is the Maybelline Lash Sensational Mascara, which is also one of my favorites from the affordable end. And so on the affordable side, I'm going to be using this. Let's see the comparison between the two. Okay, that's pretty close. I mean, I can't even spot the difference between the two. Nice. I like that. I like it. Now for highlighter on this side of my face, I'm going to be applying the Becca highlighter in the shade Champagne Pop. This is supposed to be like a very unique highlighter, and I do feel like it was a little bit difficult to dupe this, because it has a little bit of champagne gold to it, but also with a lot of peach undertones to it. So it's not very easy to find a highlighter like this. So firstly, I will be applying this one on this side of my face. It's intense, as you guys can see, and the texture of this is pretty smooth. Like, it's not very gritty, it's not very stiff. If you have texture on your skin, it does emphasize it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it's not like it's gonna look completely natural, but it's okay. So on this side of my face, which I found was the closest dupe for the Becca Champagne Pop highlighter, was the Wet n Wild highlighter in the shade Boozy Brunch. Now you can find this on Hope Makeup for about 250 rupees or on Myntra sometimes. It's usually out of stock, but it does keep coming back in stock and stuff like that. So I will try to link it I don't think you can find this on Nykaa. If you can, do let me know. It has a little bit more pink tones to it, but it's very similar. And on the skin, you can't really make out the difference. Like, look at that. You can't really make out the difference between the two. The texture of this is a little bit stiff as compared to this. This one is more smooth and it glides onto your skin, whereas this is a little bit like drier. Now for my lipstick. So on this side, I'm going to be using the MAC Retro Matte lipstick in the shade Feel So Grand. Now this is more like a true red, so I'm going to be applying this on this side. So this is what Feel So Grand looks like. And I feel like the closest dupe to this is the Wet n Wild Catsuit liquid lipstick in the shade Missy and Fierce. Missy and Fierce has a little bit of blue undertones to it, but once these two dry down, they look almost identical. And the funny part is, Missy and Fierce, the Wet n Wild liquid lipstick is more long lasting and more comfortable, and it doesn't fade away and it doesn't fade off easily with any meal, whereas the MAC one does. Shame. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. So I started filming that video when it was around 1 o'clock. Now it's 3:30, so it's on my face for about 2 hours. Though some of the products are really new to me, some of it I've already tried and tested, so I know how it wears and how it lasts and stuff like that. So quickly I'll run through each and every product that I've used, just to give you guys like my final opinion, which one is better than the other. So when it comes to the eyeshadows, as you guys can see, both of these gave the exact same look. The way it's wearing and stuff like that is pretty similar. So if you don't want to spend about 2,500 to 2,300 rupees on a Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette, which is pretty good quality, but I feel like the shimmers are a little bit chunky and you have to work with your fingers on it. Brushes don't work really well with it. And I found that the PAC eyeshadow was giving it very good competition. It gave it a run for the money. Even though this is not very inexpensive, I would like to say that including shipping, it comes up to about 1,650 rupees, which is not inexpensive at all. So if you pay about like 800 rupees more or something like that, you can actually get a Huda Beauty eyeshadow itself. And if you're someone who likes eyeshadows a lot and you wanted to try it out, I would say go for the Huda Beauty one just to try out and see what the buzz is about. If you don't want to invest in those big palettes which are like 4,800 or something like that, you can try this one out. You can get this for 2,300 on Cosmic, and do look out for a sale if it goes for much lesser price. But otherwise it's for rupees 2,500 on Nykaa. But nonetheless, if you're not willing to spend that money at all, and 800 rupees is a big price difference, and if you didn't want to spend that money, go ahead with the PAC eyeshadows. I do really like it, and I found that this was blending in way better than the Huda Beauty one. So then moving on to face products. Now in terms of these two, the Benefit Porefessional or the PAC Pore Primer, I would say try either. Like this one you get only a sample size, so this one is only 7.5 ml and you have to pay about 1,100 rupees for this, and whereas this is for 850 rupees and you get about like 0.88 fluid ounces of this. So you get more quantity in this as well, and I feel like both of this do work pretty similar on the skin. This does work a little better in smoothing out the skin texture, but this again is not very bad for the price. So if you want a good pore filling primer, I think you can try the PAC primer out. And then now when it comes to the primer water, again there is not much of a difference between these two in terms of hydration or anything of that sort. This is a lot inexpensive. This one was for 499 and this is for 850 rupees when I first got it, and in this you get about 1 fluid ounce of product, and in this you get 50 ml. This is only 30 ml and this you get 50 ml of product, which again is a lot cheaper, but I feel like the scent on this is very bad, almost like it's rancid, and that might not be a pleasant experience. But in terms of finish or the way it's performing, there's not much of a difference between the two. So if you don't want to spend that much money on the Smashbox primer water, you can get the Wet n Wild one, which again goes on sale most often. And now moving on to the most exciting part, which is the foundation. Like this is full coverage. This is amazing finish. It can look a little bit cakey and dry on your skin if you have dry skin, or if you have any texture, it emphasizes it, and it can look a little bit matte, but it photographs really well, looks amazing in pictures, doesn't have any kind of weird flashback. Whereas this one again gives you that very good coverage, not as much as the Huda Beauty one. For me this is like full coverage, whereas I find that this needs a little bit more building up. It gives me medium coverage, but I can build it to full coverage. I just feel like it looks a little too heavy on my skin, so today I kept this one at medium coverage itself, and I can't see a big difference between the two. Like when I've applied it, I can't see a very big difference, but both of this is really good. Like I really love both of these foundations, and I'm really not able to suggest which one you should go for over the other. But what I would like to say is this is pretty pricey. This is for 2,990 or something on Nykaa, and I feel like it's completely worth it. Since I've been testing this foundation out continuously for a week, I've noticed that I've started to get this bump. So this is that foundation that you can keep only for special occasions or use it sparingly, like once a week. Give your skin some break and then use it, because it's got that strong fragrance in it, whereas this one doesn't have any sort of fragrance in it, and this doesn't break me out. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. It depends on what you want to spend your money on, but if you think your skin is very sensitive and you might break out from the Huda Beauty foundation, then you might want to stay away from this. So next, moving on to concealer, which I've already compared in the past as well, the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer to the Revolution Concealer. Now, as I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I can see that this part is smooth. It's not settling into my lines and it's not fading away. Whereas this side, it has that coverage only in the beginning, whereas now it's settling into lines. It's kind of fading away, kind of with the darkness peeking through. So this is my concealer for using on like around my mouth and spot concealing and stuff like that, but I can never use this underneath my eyes. But in terms of which one should you get, this is very affordable, and this you get for 595 rupees. This is for about 1900 rupees on the Tarte website. You can get it shipped to India when they have free shipping, but sometimes you'll end up paying duty. But if you're traveling, you can try to get your hands on this. They do have it in most countries, and if you're like a person who wants like a full coverage concealer, try this one out. It's amazing. Now coming to setting powder, it does pretty much the same thing. Only thing is this, even if you go a little overboard with it, it won't look like your face is looking very cakey, but this one you have to use very little. But it pretty much does the same thing, like smoothing around the eyes and the rest of the face, setting the lines on the face perfectly. So it does a pretty good job. This is a comparable dupe in my opinion, and it's very affordable as well, easily available in India for 600 rupees, and there's almost all the time flat 30% on Lakme. Now coming to the blush, this was a very tricky part for me. This was a pretty good dupe in my opinion, but I wouldn't suggest you guys go ahead and buy two lip products just to match something. But if you have a lot of lipsticks, do not go and invest in a high-end blush. This is something I bought few years ago. That's when I had no idea about makeup, and this is the only high-end blush that I own, and I think I won't be buying anything anytime soon until and unless some shade is going to stand out a lot to me, because I'm not a blush person and I'm not a powder blush person these days. But any kind of lipstick with a little bit of sheen and creaminess in it, just try it, see how you like it as a blush. I don't think you'll ever go back to powder blushes or again invest in blushes itself. So next product I'm going to be talking about is highlighter. Now this is the Becca highlighter in the shade Champagne Pop, and this one is Wet n Wild Boozy Brunch. Now when you look at it like side by side, they don't even look similar, and even the swatches, this one turns out to be a little more pink, but on the skin guys right now I can't even tell a difference between the two. Only thing is this one is a lot more smoother on the skin. This one can sort of emphasize some texture, but this one, the formula itself is a little bit dry as compared to the Becca Champagne Pop, but the price difference is amazing. This is like $38 or something like that. That's like way about 2000 rupees, and this one you can get it for 250 rupees. And sometimes I've seen this on sale on Hope Makeup for 150, which is amazing. That's a steal for the price, and look at the quantity you get. When will you ever go through this entire thing? You'll never finish this highlighter. Like right now, can you even see a difference between the two sides? I feel like investing in too many high-end highlighters is a little bit of waste of money until and unless it's completely unique. The texture and stuff like that should be completely unique for you to spend so much money on that. Otherwise, I would always stick to affordable highlighters. So now let's compare the lipstick. This is a very popular shade, and for a very good reason. The shade is beautiful. It doesn't have a lot of blue undertone to it. It looks almost like a very true red lipstick. But this is for 1900 rupees, and the wear time of this is not even that good. Like with a small meal, it fades away very soon, and it kind of bleeds and stuff like that. So it's not worth spending so much money on a like bright red lipstick when it's going to be all over your mouth, especially when you're having a meal or like when you're in an important place, like say a date or a meeting or something like that. That's not a good look. So what I would say is invest in affordable, good formula. Oh, and by the way, the mascara, amazing. Both of this is very nice, and this gives a very tough competition to the Benefit Roller Lash. So just stick to Maybelline. Don't spend your money on that. Mascaras are something that go bad very fast, so stick to Maybelline. That is everything I wanted to talk to you guys about. These are the dupes that I have for the high-end products. And so yeah, do let me know if you have any other dupes in mind. Like if you have tested out some products and you're like, oh my god, this is a dupe for this, and this girl doesn't know that, and she could probably tell her subscribers. So do let me know. Give me your input. I know that my subscribers have the best recommendation for me, so do leave your recommendations in the comment section down below. It's going to be so helpful. I can probably compile that and do another video, test it out and do another video. So this is not going to be my last Dupes video. Of course, I'm going to be testing out other products, and I already have other products in mind that I want to be doing. And don't forget to like this video because I've put a lot of effort into this, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.